Hi, I'm Tyler with Elevate Technologies in Durham, North Carolina. Today we're talking about frame TVs. Now the one you've probably heard of is the Samsung frame TV, but the basic premise is that these TVs look like art when they're off and they look like a TV when they're on. So the benefit is instead of having a large black rectangle over your living room fireplace, you now have a lovely piece of art that looks like art but really functions like a TV when you need it. And to do that, there's lots of techniques and technology that these manufacturers use to make the TV look a certain way and have the right brightness and reflections and things like that. And so they put a matte screen over the TV. You can get nice wooden borders that go around the edges. There's a specific type of wiring and equipment that goes with these TVs. And so it's not as simple as installing and setting up a regular TV versus these frame TVs. And so today we want to talk about the things that people don't consider when they buy these frame TVs, mistakes that they can overcome, and costs that they need to consider when they're investing in a frame TV system. So the first and most common mistake that people make is they don't consider the OneConnect box. So the OneConnect box looks like this. It's a bulky piece of hardware, but basically what it is, it's all the guts and the brains of the TV that have, instead of being on the back of the TV, Samsung has taken it out and put it into a separate box. And so the idea is now that you have this OneConnect cable, which is a slender, transparent cable that connects the TV to that OneConnect box. The OneConnect box now can have your HDMI connections, power connections, Roku, Apple TV, all that sort of stuff, all separately from the TV. But the problem is you need to hide that cable. Samsung tells you just run the cable in front of the TV, just along your mantle or wherever you have it, but it looks terrible. And so you have to hide that cable somewhere. Now the trick is that cable is not in-wall rated. So we have a lot of clients that say, well, can't you just drop the wire behind the wall and have it come out the bottom? But it doesn't have a fire rated jacket. And so according to the National Electric Code, you can't use that wire in the wall. Now there's a couple ways to get around it. If you're doing construction or renovation, you can run a conduit from that location down to wherever you need that OneConnect box to go, whether it's at a media console below the TV or in a built-in cabinet somewhere nearby. You can run a conduit from there and have the OneConnect cable go from the TV through that fire-rated conduit into that OneConnect box. That's one way to do it. Or you can use Samsung's in-wall rated cable, which we wouldn't recommend. The reason is that cable is so thick that even if you have it come out of the TV, go into the wall and down, that little distance behind the TV, the cable is thick enough to where it takes the TV off the wall just a little bit. And so it may not seem like a big deal, but then when you get the TV on the wall and you put it up there and the OneConnect cable is sort of sticking it off the wall a little bit, it ruins the effect a little bit. The TV is now angled upwards, which you never want, and it's no longer flat against the wall, so it sort of loses the effect. And so the best thing to do, especially if you are not in construction and you just want to put the TV on your wall, is what we usually do for our clients, which is to recess an enclosure behind the TV. And so that's a 17-inch tall enclosure that fits between two studs, and that houses all of your stuff. So that's the OneConnect cable, power cables, HDMI cables, the Roku streamer box or the Apple TV box if you have it. All of that can go in the wall right behind where the TV is. Now the benefit of that is, one, you can't see any wires, there's no boxes anywhere, but you also don't have to put the OneConnect box anywhere. You don't have to put it in a media console somewhere, you don't have to put it in your cabinetry somewhere. It's all behind the wall. And so we prefer that method for most things. You can even install those boxes during construction. If you're doing construction, that's an easy way to do that. And so that's probably the number one most common thing that people miss and things they don't consider when they're installing a TV. The second thing that people forget is the accessories that you will need with this TV. Now, most TVs, you can just put them on the wall, plug it in, and they're pretty much ready to go. But the Samsung frame TVs, although they do work right when you plug them in, there will be things that you find you will need when you get this frame TV. The first thing is a bezel. You will have to get a bezel. The bezel is the border that goes around the edge of the frame TV, and it looks like wood. It's meant to make the frame TV look more like the borders of art. And so that will be essential. Otherwise, the outside borders of the frame TV will just be black. And there's a little IR receiver at the bottom that will be showing. It sort of ruins the effect. Now, you can get those from Samsung's website for about $200. They're not included. Or you can get them from a third party like Deco Frames, who makes a bunch of different types of frames. But you should probably consider a bezel in your cost. The other cost that people don't consider is the cost of the art mode. And so when you turn the TV off, the TV goes into art mode and it shows a piece of art. Now, Samsung has a couple free ones built in and they sort of rotate through those. But the main thing they try to sell you on is a subscription to get all different types of artwork, from modern, old, Renaissance art, whatever you're looking for. You can also upload your own photos, but you have to do a little bit more work for that. So most people opt to just buy the subscription of the art pieces that go on the frame TV. And so that's another cost that you need to consider when you're thinking about buying a frame TV, is that. The other accessory you may want to get is sound. Now, the Samsung Frame TV being so flat on the wall, the speakers on there don't really have any room to give any sort of oomph or be placed anywhere along the edges or anything like that. And so the sound is pretty okay. So we would recommend at least a soundbar, if not a much bigger speaker system with speakers in the walls and ceiling and things like that. But if you're doing a soundbar, it's important to consider the look of everything once it goes in. And so here's an example of one we did with a client. And if you just were to get a black soundbar from Best Buy or something like that and set it on this mantle, it wouldn't look very good. The black doesn't really match the colors and things in the room or even the piece of art on the TV. And so it would stick out like a sore thumb. And so instead, we usually like to go with at least a soundbar that looks nice, like the Sonos Arc or something that we can get in white, matches shiplap or whatever sort of trim you have around the house, and put that on the wall directly below the TV, not on a mantle or anything like that. In fact, we usually, for our clients, will float it on the wall, which means there's no visible mounting, there's no wires, there's no outlet that you can see. It sort of looks like you took the soundbar and just stuck it on the wall. And the effect is really nice because you now have this TV that looks like it's just a piece of art that you've hung on the wall, and you also have this bar that you hung on the wall right below it. There's no wires, doesn't look like a TV and soundbar. It's really unique. Now, the other thing you can do is there's a company called Leon, or Leon Speakers, and they make what is effectively a mantle that you can put either their soundbar or your own soundbar inside of to hide it. Now, the mantle, it's almost literally a mantle. It's got wood trim on the top that you can customize and the bottom, and it's got a fabric shroud that goes around the middle that's acoustically transparent, and you can customize that fabric. And so when people look in and see your living room TV, they don't see a TV. They see a piece of art with a nice border around it, and they see a mantle below it. But then when you turn everything on, you now have this sound bar in the middle of your mantle. You have a TV that comes on. And so it's a really cool switch from looking like art in a mantle to having a full audiovisual system. Now, there's a couple other ways you can add sound and things like that, but we would recommend some sort of sound solution, and always think about the aesthetics when you're trying to put or integrate with the frame TV. Now, the last thing we want people to consider when they're thinking about buying a frame TV is the alternatives. So Samsung was the original. They came out with the TV and sort of rode the wave for several years because it was so popular and everyone wanted to buy it and there was no competition. And so they didn't really innovate much with it. The price stayed about the same. And only until last year did they really make some good improvements, but the price is still high. And when you start to put all the pricing together, a 65-inch is about $2,000. The bezel is about $200. You have wiring, installation, maybe a soundbar, a sound system. It becomes a large investment in a big project in a TV that we think performs at around 7.5 out of 10. Now, there's lots of alternatives and competitors that have come out over the last year or so that have challenged Samsung a little bit and brought the market to where it needs to be. The first is the Hisense Canvas TV. Now, Hisense is known for value TVs, great performance for good price, and their Canvas TV is a direct competitor to the frame TV. It has the similar matte screen, it has art mode, but the differences are it comes with a bezel, so you don't have to buy another bezel. The art mode is included, you don't have to get another subscription, and it's $500 cheaper for the 65-inch. And not to mention the interface or the operating system of the TV uses Google TV, which is a significantly better operating system and interface, in our opinion, to the Tizen interface, which Samsung uses, which we think is pretty clunky. And so in general, it's a better TV. It's a little bit more modern. It's got a lot of the same features that the frame TV does at a lower price. The frame TV does have a little bit better screen, a little bit better art mode look with the brightness handling and things like that. But the Hisense TV had a lot of pros to it for a lower cost if you're just looking for a TV that looks like art on your wall. The other option is the company Leon that we mentioned earlier. They have partnered up with Sony to create basically a high performance frame TV. And so they use Sony's X93L TV that came out last year. Fantastic TV. It performs really, really well. One of the best TVs of last year. And Leon has created a custom border that fits perfectly around that X93L. And it looks like a piece of art. And in fact, Leon and Sony have agreed on a programming of the Sony TV that Leon can activate with their system that puts art mode onto that Sony TV that it doesn't usually have out of the box. And so it's a very custom solution that gives you that sort of art mode look that you want, but it's extremely high performance TV. It's a much better performing TV than the Samsung frame when you want to sit down, you want to watch a movie, and you spend all this money on the TV and it can perform really well. So it's definitely a bit more of a custom premium option, but it's a really nice option to have a better performing system. Overall, we like the frame TV. It's extremely popular for a reason. It's in a lot of homes today, and it has really changed the way people imagine what a TV can look like. Obviously, there's lots of competitors now that are challenging what Samsung has done, but at the end of the day, Samsung was the first to do it, and it's a really cool TV, really cool technology. But what we want people to remember is there's a lot of things to consider when you're thinking about getting a frame TV, such as additional costs, installation difficulties, wiring, extra sound, lots of things to consider. And so we just ask that you take all these things into consideration when you're looking at buying a frame TV. But that's all for today. Again, I'm Tyler with Elevate Technologies in Durham, North Carolina. Follow and like for more tech tips, and we'll see you in the next one.